we'll get around to watching. So now we come on to the final thing that we're going to talk about this week, and that is Ted Lasso season 2, because I have I mean, there was a time, right, when I remember I you know how, so on this show, every now and then we have ideas, and we sometimes the ideas are, just going to give us trouble and we don't have enough time to do them. You talk about doing your 5-minute rants about films, like spoiler rants, and we're talking about doing like, I'm sorry we didn't recognize you, because we realize that there are all these pictures that Sean keeps coming up with. We invariably know the man, but we don't know the woman in the pictures of the film. And so we wanted to do like another series to sort of like give the woman her due and tell you all about. We wanted to do that. And one of the ideas that I had for a podcast, I mean, even this podcast, when we came with the idea, Netflix or cinema, I mean, we've had ideas for podcasts that we've done over the years, from they don't make them like they used to, all that kind of. And one of the ideas I had was Late to the Party, which was people are going to watch something and they're going to rave about this. And the reason that I came up with this idea was because of Game of Thrones. So Game of Thrones, everybody was watching that show and everybody was raving about it and talking about how great Game of Thrones was. And I hadn't watched anything. And by the time I started watching Game of Thrones properly, it was probably on season 5. And so I thought about, I could do something called Late to the Party, where I watch stuff after it's gone through the public consciousness and I go, let's go watch about this. And this is a bit like me with Ted Lasso season 2, because originally Ted Lasso season 2 was released around about the time that our original Apple TV Plus subscription ran out. And I was like, well, I'm not paying for it to watch that, even though I really, really like season 1. But now that we have an Apple TV Plus 5 months free through to Barclay card, I'm like, yeah, let's go back and watch it. And this show, I'm not sure, have you ever heard of Ted Lasso?
I've heard the name, but I don't really know anything about it.
Oh, all right. So there was a time, this character is probably, when I was talking about, I'm surprised at what they've done with, I was talking about something earlier in this episode where you're saying, 22 Jump Street, and you're saying
Two
that
Jump Street, yeah.
it has no right to be that good. And Ted Lasso is a character that they came up with because there was a point when ESPN got the streaming or got the broadcast rights for the English Premier League, for the Premiership, to show in America. And they had all these adverts, and the whole idea was that there's this American football coach called Ted Lasso who ends up being in charge of Tottenham Hotspur and knows nothing about football, knows nothing about England, and he would he would be like, oh, that's Gareth Bale, that's the guy who's going to Real Madrid, right? Yeah, he's English. He's like, no, he's Welsh. He's like, Welsh? How many countries are in this country? And then his assistant coach goes, there's 4 countries in this coach. That kind of, and so it was like a throwaway gag about an American coming to take over an English football team. They know nothing. And they came up with a TV show. And they said, okay, now we're actually going to do a whole series about this American who comes over to take over a football team in England and knows nothing about football. And I remember the first time I thought, oh, for goodness sake, cash grab. This is stupid. This makes no sense. Then people started raving about this show and talking about how it was great. And I watched the first season and I was surprised. I'm like, this came from a commercial. This came from an advert. This came from a one-line thing. And they have spun it into one of the most heartfelt, kind TV shows ever. Because
Wow.
if you're going to sum up Ted Lasso in one word, it's kindness. So this guy comes over. He comes over to England. He doesn't know anything about American football. His assistant coach is reading like a book on like the beautiful game on the plane over. They get into England, and then he's obviously out of his depth. Everybody says he's out of his depth. He goes to like the first ever news conference, and people are like, why are you here? You know nothing about football. What have you done again? Well, and they have this fictional football team called Richmond AFC. Obviously,
Right.
there is no Richmond AFC. But it's like Richmond AFC, they're in the Premiership, and he has to come and take over them. And in the second, but when the second season starts up, they've been relegated at the end of the first season, so they're now in the Championship. And it's all about this is not really about the football. It's not about the football. They're essentially taking a football team and turning it into a workplace comedy. So if you're coming here for realism, there's some things that don't quite work. And there's some
Right.
things that you can see this was obviously written for an American audience, but they have tried to make it as English as possible, but it's written for an American audience. Like there's one particular episode where there's a Nigerian footballer. There's a Nigerian footballer on the team, and he gets a text from his dad. And I was looking at the language. I was going, that's American language. No Nigerian that I know will use the word shill. like, oh, you've become a corporate shill. I'm like, what the hell? No, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't ring true. But it's made for Americans, and they've got to understand it. And so it's all about the and you can see there's a character in it called Roy Kent who is so obviously based on Roy Keane. He is so he's so obviously based on Roy Keane. And if you watch your football, if you follow, you can understand this. And they have this whole thing in the locker room and all that, and it's really really great. And you have all these characters like Nate, who starts off the season one as, and he's like the boot boy. But then Ted Lasso realizes he knows much about football, and then it promotes him, and then what happens with that? And I think this is another one of those shows where they've just got their characters right, and their characters getting together. There's one particular character, there's one particular scene where they have all the women in the show, not like in Marvel where it was like, totally hackneyed and it's like, she's not alone. Ta-da, look at us, Marvel, look at all the women we have. Not like that, please God, no. But they have all the women in the show just sat down in a church having this conversation, and the way the banter goes back and forth and the way they're talking, and you just think, this is just so great, and it's so supportive, and Ted Lasso is just so kind-hearted and is always trying to do the right thing. But even though he's always trying to do the right thing, the show doesn't shy away from the fact that sometimes there's bad things in life, and it's about how do you deal with bad things in life when your philosophy is to be kind to everybody and to be kind about everything. What about when people write bad things about you in the press? What about when your wife wants to divorce you? What about all these different things? And I think it is one of these shows that has a philosophy at the heart of it, and it's just be kind to people, and it is so well done that it does not come across as hackneyed. It does not come across as, what the heck is this piece of nonsense? It just comes across as great. And I think Ted Lasso is one of the great shows. It is seriously one of, especially when you think about where this character came from, when you think about the fact that it's one of the great shows. And
cool.
it's a
How
bit
many
like,
stars?
Ooh,
How many stars?
four.
4 stars. 4
Ted
stars.
Lasso,
We've done
yeah.
well today, haven't we?
Yeah, Ted Lasso is a straight up 4-star show, and Sean, I think you'd like it if nothing else for all the sort of football in jokes that they make, because I reckon that this AFC Richmond it's based on smaller Premiership football clubs like Bournemouth, like Bournemouth, like Crystal Palace and everything like that, and I think it's really well done. Oh, the Christmas episode is so dang touching.
I might have to try and catch that then sometime.
Yeah, dude, yeah. Watch Ted Lasso. It is amazing.